how does knowing a satellite impact before it launches help communities become more resilient? So, we now have our own constellation up right, of our own. How do we know it's going to be impactful to what you're talking about, like having our own access to data, and how does it impact communities with everything that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's still quite an open question, especially on the AI forecasting space. But the premise is that more data will create more accurate forecasts, and I think most people agree with that sentiment. But understanding how and what data we collect on orbit can then optimize how good the forecasts get. So you can imagine maybe if you take, is it important to take images from space at a regular interval, such as daily, or is it better to take them at 6 hourly intervals or maybe hourly intervals? So it all depends on the weather phenomena that you're kind of trying to forecast for. So these big synoptic cyclones that give us everything from thunderstorms in the south and snow up to the Great Plains in the northeast in the winter, those systems move at a much slower cadence, like on the order of days. So maybe you don't need a rapidly updating picture of those things. But if you're trying to forecast those individual thunderstorm cells that are propagating within this larger cyclone, you do need a faster cadence update. So I think the way we're kind of evaluating this, and it's one of the questions I'm looking at regularly, is what is the actual impact of our new TMS fleet on these forecasts of, if we only have one sensor, how does that impact the forecast versus if we had our whole constellation that we're trying to put up there? And then how that might make us more resilient to extreme weather is, it's all based on scale. Like if
Yeah,
you're just trying to predict planetary scale waves, is what we call, and like these long, thousands of kilometers size systems, you don't need as frequent updates. I guess maybe the analogy is like, if you look at my shirt here, it's black, but if you zoom in closely, you can see all the individual threads that make it look like one coherent color.
yeah,
So if you're zoomed away from far from Earth, you can see one coherent weather system. But within that weather system, there's little pockets of thunderstorms. There's a front pushing through that might have some snow along it. Those types of things that it's all the scale of what you're trying to predict and how that eventually impacts the end, people
yeah,
on the ground. If you're concerned about hail is a very localized event, and certain thunderstorms make hail. Not all of them make hail that hit the ground. So
mhm.
having a much more frequent update and microwave update of those storms could definitely help on picking out which ones are starting to produce hail and where they might go.
Yeah. And I would say too, like tying it back to like resilience, and we always talk about like it's a bit of our buzzword at tomorrow, at tomorrow, but it's because this is super helpful again for me. So I hope whoever's watching this finds this helpful. Right. It's some things don't need the fast tracking, but when you're dealing with things that do get impacted by weather, that can't get wet, that can't
Hmm.
experience hail, that does impact a business and the livelihood of a business, or you just think of like a day-to-day person, it does matter about that localization. So I think that does make you like more resilient, right? So if we think
Yeah.
about a shipping company and broader scale, they're like, oh, there's a storm coming in this week, but okay. But if they have, oh, well, we're going from, I don't know, Arkansas to Austin. These are horrible examples, but and within that route or at our facilities, we know that there's going to be a hailstorm, a lightning storm that would put our drivers at risk. That means that we probably shouldn't have that shipment go on the road and we should wait XYZ hours or days to do that. That's a big deal. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think it's
something
really
we've
cool that you
been
distinguish it.
we've been building on the AI front. I don't know if people are familiar with the focus model that we've announced a few times online. Is That's exactly what we're aiming to do. Is we take real-time observations at a cadence that, say, every 15 minutes, and we can update our weather forecast to give us 3 kilometer, which is, the distance between you and a grocery store probably.
Wow.
So like a 3 kilometer box update every 15 minutes that we can run so that we can get that hyper local uh, concerning information. So if you could decide if you wanted to wait an hour until that storm passes over the highway and then can avoid the hail, that's kind of the the information content we're trying to strive for.